Hi everyone. I am doing this video for the week of April 13th through the 17th. And again, I'm going to go over the chapters that we did last week and explain those chapters in case you are confused for some reason, and then I'm going to go over the assignments that you are going to see this week. So we read chapters 5 through 7, and in chapters 5, they're getting ready for a festival to give thanks to Ani, the earth goddess. And this is basically the New Yam Festival, where they get their houses or their huts ready and they prepare food and there's a festival, and it continues into chapter 6. But remember, Okonkwo isn't very good with sitting idly and preparing for excitement and festivals. And he's basically grumbling around his compound, and he sees that there's a banana tree that one of his wives had cut the leaves off of. And he basically said that she had killed this tree. And so when he found out who had done this to this tree, and it was his second wife, Ekwefi, and he said, "Oh, you killed this banana tree." And she's like, "No, I didn't. I just cut some leaves off of it." And then he beat her for it. And in this scene, you see that Okonkwo has a heavy hand within his household, and his other wives were trying to get him to stop from a safe distance. And they kept saying, "It is enough." But he didn't stop until he was satisfied. But one thing that you have to understand about this wife that he is beating, she used to be the village beauty, and she's probably the most sassy of his wives. And as he was leaving, he said he was going to go get his gun, and he was like he had beaten her. And she muttered about guns that don't shoot, because, and this is one of the questions from our quiz last week, he is not skilled with a gun. And so when she muttered this to him, then he shot at her, but she climbed over a wall and got away from him. And so she was very much shaken, but she was unhurt. And you could see that after he shot his gun, he was like, "Oh no, what did I do?" Because he went to go check on her and make sure she was okay. But as soon as he realized she was okay, he basically walked away and was like, "I'm right." So the story continues, and they're making food and getting ready for the festival, and you are seeing basically what's going on in the households. And they talk about one of the daughters of the other wife, Abigaili. She comes back and she has broken her water pot, and the other kids have kind of been quieted because they started to say what happened, but Ikemefuno gave them a look and was like, "No, we're not saying what happened." Because what actually happened is they said that she was trying to act like a woman, and she had it on her head, and she was walking like an actual grown woman. And when it fell and it broke, she was laughing and she thought it was funny. But when she started getting closer to the compound, she realized that she was going to be in trouble, and she stopped and started crying. So she was crying by the time she got back to their compound. And at the end of this chapter, Okonkwo had food in his hut and he was eating, and his daughter Azima was there, and he was thinking about how much he cared for her. And basically he wishes that she were a boy, because he thinks that her spirit is a little bit more like his. And he thinks that she would have been a better child for him as a boy than as a girl. But she is the child that he favors the most out of all of his children. Moving on to chapter 6. Chapter 6 focuses on the wrestling match. So within this festival, they have wrestling matches, and I actually have some videos that you're going to watch this week that give you an idea of what the wrestling match looks like, modern day wrestling matches, but because they still do it, because this is an actual society. And Chielo, so they go to the wrestling match and they're watching all the wrestling matches, and Ekwefi is his second wife, and she really enjoys the wrestling matches. And this is actually the reason that she fell in love with Okonkwo 20 years ago. And they even talk about how she ran away from her first husband to be with Okonkwo. And while she is at the wrestling match, her friend Chielo approaches her and is asking how Azima is doing. And she even says something to the note of, do you think she's come to stay? And we find out a little bit more this week as to what she's talking about. Why would someone ask, has your child come to stay? Nobody really says that, but you'll find out later. And we find out that she is actually the Oracle of the Hills and Caves. So she is friends with Ekwefi and they go to market together. But then she also has this double role in their society of being the Oracle for the Hills and Caves. And then it ends with a wrestling match where basically they find the best wrestler and he throws, it's a really good match and he throws his competitor and they lift him up and they're walking out with him and it says, who will wrestle for our village? Okako will wrestle for our village. Has he thrown 100 men? He has thrown 400 men. Has he thrown 100 cats? He has thrown 400 cats. Then send him word to fight for us. And then that is how chapter 6 ends. So chapter 7 hops ahead in the timeline. And you will see, so this is 3 years later. And we now have seen that Ekemefuna has become a really important figure in Okonkwo's compound. And he has become a role model for Nwoye. And Nwoye is not a manly person. He just does not favor masculinity. He prefers his mother's stories, and he has become a little bit more of a manly figure in the compound because of Ikemefuna. And Ikemefuna has shown him how to tap palm trees and hunt, and he has just become a really nice role model. The role model that Okonkwo wasn't really for Nwoye. And now Nwoye is doing things to make his father happy, specifically grumbling about women and their troubles. And Okonkwo wants Nwoye to be this manly person who can control his women because he feels like that is necessary for a man to be successful. He listens to the manly stories that Okonkwo tells in his hut. Okonkwo in his hut tells stories of the wars that they've had and how he obtained his first human head that he drinks his palm wine out of. So Okonkwo's a pretty scary dude. I don't really know anyone who drinks out of a human head. That's terrifying. But he still prefers his mother's stories, and then they go into what some of the stories are. Then the next day they're working on the huts outside, and they talk about how a shadow falls on them while they're working. And these are the locusts. And normally in societies, people see locusts coming as this horrible thing that is happening. There's even allusions, or there's mentions of it in the Bible. And for them, locusts are this awesome thing that comes because they eat them. And they talked about how people were trying to catch them, but then the really smart people waited till nightfall because all the locusts settled. And then they were able to collect the locusts and they roasted them in clay pots. And while they were eating all these locusts, a man by the name of Ogwefi Exwedu comes to Okonkwo and says, that boy calls you father, do not bear a hand in his death. And Okonkwo's like, what are you talking about? And so he has learned that the oracle has said that Ikemefuna needs to be put to death. Now, I kind of have a theory on this. Remember, Ikemefuna came to them when he was 15 years old. And now it's 3 years later, so he's 18. So he really, at this point, will be an adult, and he would then be functioning in their society as an adult. So I personally think, and this has never been confirmed, but if you think about it, why would this society want an outsider? Because really, he's not from their village. He's from another village. Why would they want an outsider becoming incredibly successful? Because everything that he has become within their society, he would be a very successful person. And so I think that they are looking at him still as an outsider and saying, we don't want him to be an adult functioning within our village. Just my theory there, but I feel like it makes sense. And that they never expected to keep him, that it was just a punishment to take him. So the next day, the group of elders came and they talked to Okonkwo in hushed tones, and then they they basically are staking out the plan. So then the next morning, they tell, or that day, they tell Ikemefuna, oh, you're going to go home. And he's grown to love Umofia, and he sees Okonkwo as more of a father than his father was to him. And so he's not really sure how he feels about going home. Nowoye is for sure upset. And when Nowoye goes to tell his mom, she is really, you can tell by her reaction that she knows that he's not going home. Because she says, oh, poor boy. And she dropped her clay pot. And she knows that it's not going to be good for Ikemefuna. So in the morning, they set out with a group of men, and they are taking him through the woods to go back to his hometown or his village. And he starts to worry about his mom. He starts to do very childish things like singing songs to himself. And if he lands on one foot, she's okay. And if he lands on the other foot, she's not okay. And he worries about if his mother is ill. He worries about if his sister is going to remember him. And he has a lot of like anxiety as he's walking. And he keeps looking behind him. And the guy who's behind him is like really rude to him and gruff with him, like, keep walking. And all of a sudden, one person basically takes a whack at him with his machete and doesn't do the job. And he turns around and says, my father, they have killed me. And Okonkwo takes his machete and in one whack cuts him down. And they say in the book that he did this out of the fear of looking weak. So Okonkwo drew his machete and cut him down. He was afraid of being thought weak. And when he gets back to the compound, they talk about how Nowoye knew that Ikemefuna had been killed. And this was really the only person that Nowoye really connected with. And so this is really hard for Nowoye. And Nowoye, it says they were returning home with baskets of yams from a distant farm across the stream when they heard the voice of an infant crying in the thick forest. A sudden hush had fallen on the women who had been talking, and they quickened their steps. And Nowoye had heard the twins were somewhere in earthenware pots and thrown away in the forest, but he had never yet come across them. And so it brings up this idea that they throw twins away in the evil forest. And Ikemefuna is starting to kind of question his culture, because not only has his best friend / brother been killed because of what their culture deemed necessary, but then also he's looking at the evil forest saying, that's so strange, that it's horrible that they have decided that twins are evil and need to be thrown into the evil forest to die. And which totally makes sense that he would be questioning that part of his society. Okay, so going on to this week that you're going into. So this week you're going to have 3 assignments to complete, along with reading chapters 8 through 10. So again, you have another 3 chapters to read. Your first assignment that you're going to be doing this week is going to be about YouTube videos. You're doing a KWL chart. You're starting with what you already know about the Igbo people, and then what do you want to know about the Igbo people. And then there are 3 videos that you're going to watch, and then you're going to explain what you did learn about the Igbo people. These are authentic videos from the actual Igbo people that we still have. and they are showing what their culture is actually about. The first video that you're going to see is about the dancing of the iglugu, and you're going to see the iglugu in the next coming chapters. There's the wrestling competitions, and then there's going to be a masquerade. With the section about what do I want to know, I'm going to be using that information to help you later on when we are looking at like lessons later on. So when I see what you guys want to know, then I will incorporate that into our lessons. The next assignment that you are going to be doing is going to be, it is not bringing up the correct one. All right, so it is a writing assignment, and it is, I'm sorry, I keep trying to get it back open again, and it is not coming up with the correct one, but it is a writing assignment. And basically your assignment, I'll just go ahead and stop sharing it and I'll show it this way. All right, so your writing assignment is about so do Okonkwo's family relations make him a sympathetic or an unsympathetic character? And you're going to see that you have to give me a hook, you have to give me background information to support what you're talking about, and then you need to give me your claim. Is he sympathetic or is he unsympathetic? You're going to have your body paragraph 1, and it gives evidence, and you have to have 2 pieces of evidence, either supporting yes, he is sympathetic, or no, he is not sympathetic. And you have to pick one or the other because this is an argumentative piece. No, you're not going to be writing the entire essay, but we're still pulling that textual evidence, and it needs to be on point. The second body paragraph here is looking at evidence number 1 and then evidence number 2. So you're looking at your concessions and your refutations. So if you've been talking about, no, he is not sympathetic, and I know I have some students that feel that way because I have students that through their answers I can tell do not like Okonkwo so far. And so your evidence number 3 would be your concession. So you would say why some people view him as sympathetic, but then you need to come back to your side with your refutations and explain why he is unsympathetic, or vice versa, depending on which side you're on. You need to end with your side of the argument. And then with the conclusion, you're restating your claim and then information for the essay. The last assignment, so remember you're finishing through chapters 10, and you can use that for this assignment that we were just talking about. The last assignment is talking about cultural norms, and let me see if it will pull it up. So the last one is about cultural norms. Again, no, it just wants to show me that same new share. Okay, they just uploaded a different, nope, it's gonna show me the same thing. All right, so it's not working correctly, but it is talking about cultural norms, and you have to give textual evidence, and then you're going to answer a question of who's questioning these cultural norms, and then which ones do you think are the strangest cultural norms. Let me go ahead and give you an example. And we see at the end of the last chapter that we read, so chapter 7, Nwoye talks about the twin babies that were thrown into the forest. And they basically believe that twins are one soul born in 2 bodies, and they see that as being evil. And so they toss those children into the evil forest to die because they are afraid of it. They think it's bad. So those are some of their cultural norms. That's probably one thing that I think is very strange. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is attendance. So please do not wait until Friday to turn in all of your work. I get it, you can, but the thing is at 10 o'clock on Friday, I have to say whether or not you have been attending my class. And so if I haven't heard from you and you haven't done any of your work, I have to mark you as absent. So if you have any questions, if you're having trouble submitting your work, and I've had some people say that they are submitting their work, but nothing's happening, okay, well then you need to reach out to me. That is part of your job as a student. So reach out to me through Edsby, or you can reach out to me through Google Voice. Remember, my number is 407-852-8421. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you so much. Bye.